forces are, what people call ghosts or, just entities that, people might call demons or, all this kind of stuff. But it also can be sort of a thought process, like kind of what's going on right now in the world.
Correct.
Can you explain that a little bit? I know that we are dealing with a physical virus, but if you could explain what's going on energetically in the world from your perspective and from a paranormal protection perspective, that would be amazing.
Yeah. In fact, I'll approach that as a hierarchy of created entities. Let's put it that way. I will always hold that the collective unconscious of humanity is an extremely powerful force. And at the very most simplest level of this creation ability, we have what's called a thought form. In the Norse tradition, these are called hugam, basically thought form. And what this is it's a little ball of energy or a little container of energy that is created by a perpetual emotional state. So, for example, somebody sees something move in their house that was not of their own will, like it moved on their own. They are now moved into a fear state because of what they've been trained in. They are creating a thought form that subsists off of fear energy. And so this thought form will poke the person occasionally to get fear energy out of that person. And it creates a homogeneous energetic environment so that this thought form can perpetuate its existence through the fear of the people living in that house. And it's just a little ball of energy with just a simple program of scare me. That's it. The next level up is where we will find demons, gods, and angels. And this is a term called egregore. It's a collective belief that such an entity exists. They will describe it, they will give it a name, they will give it a personality, sometimes symbols, physical attributes. And collectively, they will come to believe that this entity exists, and that collective belief in this entity will cause it to exist. This is where we will get a lot of the demons from the Goetia. It's a collective belief in these things. A lot of the angels that we encounter are the collective belief of the angels. They are very real beings. They are very smart. They are very intelligent. They're very powerful. They can be very good to work with. They can also be very dangerous to work with. But we can't discount the fact that they are collectively created entities. The next level up from that, we'll talk about Zeitgeist. It's a great term, a German word that literally means basically the ghost of the times or the spirit of the times. And it is our collective emotional state that is this energy running through our collective unconsciousness that we really can't escape from as long as we're all human beings living on this planet, living in this reality. We are tied into this zeitgeist. And right now with what's going on with the COVID-19 is a zeitgeist of fear, of uncertainty, and there is certainly a lot of anxiety going around. And working with my whispers, this is what I call my guides, they've told me that this zeitgeist is completely unavoidable. It is part of the process of, believe it or not, the human evolution that we're going through right now. And while they refuse to prophesize what the outcome of this zeitgeist is going to be in this whole COVID-19 epidemic that's going on, they refuse to say the outcome of it. They do say that we can treat the energy, just like we talked about the energetic environment, we can treat the energy of this zeitgeist and this emotional state as a wave. And you can get inundated by this wave, sucked in, and you can continue to fuel the zeitgeist with your own fear, with your own anxiety, your own uncertainty. Or, because it's an energy, you can ride on top of that wave like a surfer. You can move into a higher state of mind. You can still be aware of it, and you can transmute that energy in your own being into something that can propel you into a more advanced state of being, to a better state of being, not just for you, but for your loved ones, for your coworkers, for everybody in your life, because you are moving into this higher ascended state of being using this energy.
Interesting. And you have really been able to train a lot of people in the paranormal space to do this. Can you give us some examples of some people you've been working with?
Yeah. One of the areas that I'm branching out into right now is I found through my own complaining and moaning about the ghost hunter TV shows that there is an absolute desperate need for paranormal investigators to be trained in paranormal protection. Working with some of these guys one-on-one, I found that they don't know what to do with an attachment. They don't know what to do with tendrils. They don't know what to do with a lot of the negative energies that they're encountering, and a lot of times generating this whole similarities attract and perpetuate. They go in at a fear state and they're bringing in something negative. And so I've created a training program that I've been working with a couple of investigative teams right now to train them on how to go into a location so they can do this investigation and come out of it free of attachments, free from attacks, free from any of these conflicts, yet they can still be open, aware, and perceptive to the paranormal happening all around them.
So it's almost as if you train people to understand what's going on, so they're just not afraid. That's basically the big takeaway.
That's exactly it. When it really comes to the paranormal, this is something I've been doing my entire life. I'm now 48 years old. I grew up in a house that was extremely haunted, like things moving, TV channels changing, things like that, just like crazy, ridiculous things. I've been to seances my entire life. And out of the thousands, and I'm not exaggerating, the thousands of experiences I've had with the paranormal and helping other people with the paranormal, I can only say that I've only had 2, maybe 3 negative experiences personally. And the people that I've helped have started off with a negative experience, and we were able to turn that around and help them realize, oh, this is really nothing to be afraid of. This is just me creating a situation that I can be in control of and make things much better.
Very cool. All right. Well, is there one lasting tip you want to give anybody before we sign off?
Yes, there is one immediate thing that you can do if you ever feel that you are in the presence of a negative entity, if you are feeling that you're under psychic attack, or if there is some sort of an oppressive being that is really pressing down on your emotional state. I want you to laugh at it. Laugh to the point where your eyes are crinkling. Because what's going on is this thing is trying to poke you with an energy of like fear, of anger, hatred, uncertainty, whatnot. And like I said, similarities attract and perpetuate, but the opposite is also true. If you are laughing, it's not going to be insulted by what you've done. It's actually going to be poisoned by your laughter energy. It's going to break off its attack. It's going to get away from you, and it's going to want nothing to do with you if you can maintain your laughter in a higher state of being. It's like the most powerful, immediate thing you can do to stop an attack by a negative entity.
Man, that was great. I had no idea that he was. So he goes on ghost hunter shows and basically trains them how to fight ghosts or whatever.
No, I don't think he fights ghosts. I think he trains them how to protect themselves so that they don't take on the entities.
Yeah, that's awesome. But he was talking about something there that kind of got me into, like he was talking about thought forms, and which is basically the term tulpa. It's a, you guys know the word tulpa, right? So it's giving, it's basically creating an entity from your intention, your thought, and I guess it's basically like it's a long process of meditation, and like Kaedrich says in that thing, it's like a container of energy, but you're giving from that energy. It's like a let's go to biology here. It's like that's the egg, and your intention is like the seed that creates this entity.
Yeah, like the Slender Man.
Yeah, so the Slender Man, yeah, and it's basically, I mean, one person can kind of create one on their own, and it's crazy, like the amount of, it's like this huge thing now, and it's on Reddit, and it's like a subsection of humanity now believes that they can create this, a tulpa. I watched a bunch of crazy videos on YouTube of people, and they were it was a little sad, actually. It was people who had a lot of stuff going on in their lives, depression and all sorts of stuff, and they decided to create a tulpa to kind of like deal with it. And it was like we were getting away from that tulpa idea. It was almost kind of creating a split in your personality, like an altar.
Oh.
So, like there was one transgender kid, just a young kid, who was obviously dealing with a lot in their life, depression and all sorts of other anxiety, all sorts of stuff, but made the intention to create this other side of herself, what she was calling a tulpa, but it sounded more like a split personality. And this other side, this tulpa, would actually, it was like channeling. It was like it would take over her body, and she would become this other person for a little while, would take control.
She was like possessed?
Yeah, kind of.
But she created it.
She created it, yeah. And so she was being interviewed by someone, and she was like very shy and sort of, very sort of timid. And then when the interviewer said, "Hey, can I speak to this other entity?" She, meditated for a few minutes. I don't know how long it was. And then came out and was like, "Hey, what's going on, everyone?" And she was like super boisterous.
It was like a frat boy on spring break. He was like,
yeah, she was a frat boy. "What's up, bro?" Yeah, and then it sort of took over, and it was like a weird sort of transformation, but it reminded me a lot of channeling, actually.
Huh.
I'm not sure. Traditionally, tulpas are more kind of a separate entity that you create, like the Slender Man. So Slender Man was obviously a fake thing, but so many stories and fear and all sorts of stuff were being pumped into this one idea from all sorts of people. It was more of an egregore, I guess, than anything else, because it was from many different people sort of pumping their intentions into the one thing.
Quick tangent, the Slender Man is the weakest tulpa I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's the most boring, thinnest, like unscary monster I've ever seen. It is like I think Slenderman is ridiculous. Anyways, go on.
Really, it's just
He got lost on the way to the ball or something.
Right? Who is this tall white dude? This guy with no hair, like
hey.
right? Like, yeah,
it's super like creepy pasta kind of thing.
it's the most uncomfortable thing.
Eat some food, man. You're too skinny.
You're manorexic. Come on, step it up.
Not really my type. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Anyway, like that was kind of like that's the whole like the subsection of people who were this is like Reddit, the subreddits to all this, who were sort of trying to meditate and create these things for real. And I think it's like, man, there's some shit that can go wrong when you start like trying to create an entity like that, and especially when you think about. I think if you're coming from a Tibetan Buddhist kind of mentality, you think about this trying to attain like a perfect state of mind or whatever, a pure state of mind, and then seeing what you can do with your mind from there. Whereas people who are on these forums and stuff trying to create this, what is the intention that comes from wanting to create this? Maybe it is just trying to deal with the negativity in your life, but again, there's that negativity you're pumping into this stuff. And there's people who try to create tulpas, again, going down that Reddit rabbit hole, trying to create tulpas for trying to create like a sexual partner. So there's like this whole sexual gratification of like,
what is happening?
Yeah. So it's like creating an entity because you can't get a real one, so you just create one for yourself.
Oh, there's nothing sadder than that, man.
Yeah, there's all sorts of
different kind of Tinder.
Yeah,
but it's never like this.
That's when you're like a deep incel,
Yeah, that seems to be a lot of the kind of. I don't want to judge those people who are into that stuff, but it seems to be a lot of those kind of people who can't deal with reality, so they have to create something that's.
Well, they just create reality, but then they open a door to let something use them.
Right. So that's what I'm saying with intention. Like that's the seed that sort of impregnates the egg of energy into creating this thing. So, if your intentions into creating this thing are less than altruistic, then I think, man, you're heading down a bad path already.
Yeah, totally.
There's
you're trapped whatever state you're in.
Yeah. If it helps you deal with whatever's going on in your life, great. But I think it can get out of hand pretty quickly. There's plenty of stories of, I forget, there's a classic one of where it was back in the 50s or something like that, There was a woman